This call to order the November 20th, 2025 special called meeting board workshop of the Corpus Christi Independent School District Board of Trustees at 9:03 a.m. All items discussed this morning have been posted as required by state law. This meeting is being live streamed and a complete recording will be archived for the public to view at their convenience. Please speak into your microphones so those watching in the live stream will be able to hear what you're saying. At this time, I'll call roll to establish a quorum. Marty Bell? S. Jaime Arredondo. Here. Steve Barrera. Present. Don Clark. Here. Alice Upshaw Hawkins. Eric Villarreal. Here. And I am Dolly Trolley. A quorum has been established and we'll proceed with the agenda.
Okay. Good morning, board members and guests. Thank you guys for being with us this morning. We have a great opportunity for the next couple of hours to discuss, as you see in front of you, facilities and considerations with existing aging facilities, and then also looking at some considerations of possible consolidations and boundary changes. Do want to stress that these are just considerations. There have not been any decisions made. I also want to just give a kudos to our finance committee, fiscal committee. They've worked really hard as a team of 3 working with the administration on the committee, reviewing our work, giving us some guidance and feedback, and today we get to share that information with the full board. During this time, I encourage you to please ask questions, have some conversation. At any point that you feel you need clarification on a particular plan that we might be looking at, or particular school, then this is the time to do that. We will take some feedback after we do the workshop. Our plan is to come back after the Thanksgiving break, which we'll go over the timeline in a little bit in Ms. Griffith's presentation, but definitely going to seek community feedback as well with the same information that we're sharing with you today. So that being said, looking forward to the conversation.
Good morning. Dr. Clement and I will be walking you through this facilities workshop this morning. But to start off, today we're going to cover some surplus properties. Then we're going to go over an enrollment update, facility usage report, some consolidation considerations, and then a communication plan. So first I want to show some surplus property that the district has. We have 10 properties currently available for either sale or use by the district. The ones that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that the committee is recommending along with administration that maybe it's time to consider selling these so that we can address some current maintenance needs and some other district initiatives that we may be needing going forward. So the first one that we're recommending is on 4401 Castanon Street, and if you can see, we own this, where Mary Gret is, we own this little slither of land that's right there. It's about 0.063 acres, and so there's not a need for this. There's not anything that the district could really do with this property. So at this point in time, our maintenance team do have to keep these properties mowed, so it is a lot on our maintenance team to keep up with all these properties. So it would help also with our maintenance to try and keep up with all of these fields. So we're recommending that this little slither be sold. The next piece of property is on 4601 Maria Street. This is our old Cock property. This is about 7.79 acres. So this is another one that we don't feel that there would be a future need for this site. The next one is...
real quick, what's that building right there on the old, is that a gym?
No, that's the covered playground.
Covered playground? Okay, thank you.
The next property is a piece of property that's adjacent to our current Los Encinos school. So we just built that, the property, or the school on Los Encinos. So you see next to it is where the old school was at. And so we're recommending, we don't see a future need for that, because if we did, we would build on the same site. So we do have some developers that are really interested in that piece of property. So this is another one that could be considered by the board. And the last piece, is the our old Montclair. This is on Kentner Street. And so this is about 9 acres. And so, did I upload the wrong one? Yep, it is. So apologies. So this, it would be the old Montclair property. This is, I guess I loaded the last two of the same picture. Apologies for that. But anyway, this last one is the where Montclair Elementary School used to be, and this is about 9 acres, and so this would be in the middle of also a neighborhood that could be sold for housing as well. Okay, and now we're going to move on to enrollment, and we'll bring those up at another board meeting, but just so that the board knows that this is some.
Just real quick, the properties that we're not selling, I know that there are some, currently there's some buildings on those properties, correct? Like Meadowbrook is, that facility is still there?
No.
Oh, it's torn down?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
My bad.
It's okay. Okay, so I'd like to take your attention to our 25-26 enrollment data. On the first column, you'll see is our current campus enrollment, and you'll see that for elementary, middle, and high school. And you'll see that the district total is about 32,000 students. Now, when we did our projections, and this is what we used for our budget numbers, we were budgeting that we would have 33,167 students. So that is a difference, and these enrollment counts are as of snapshot. And so this enrollment difference is about 1,094, so almost 1,100 students. Okay, when you look at and compare it to the same time last year of our previous year enrollment, we're down 1,026 students. So this was not anticipated that we would lose this many students in this year. As we take a look at our enrollment history over the last 6 years, you'll see that the district has lost a total of 4,269 students. And so this is significant because this is attributing to part of our deficit balance. So, and as we go forward and we're looking at this, we did have a demographic study done in January of 2025, and what the demographic study is showing is that even though we do have home sales that are currently out there, a lot of that has slowed down, and they're anticipating over the next 10 years that our school numbers will remain flat. Now, we did have a demographic study which we were using prior to that was done in about 2018, and that was prior to COVID, and that did show a lot of growth in the Corpus Christi area, and that was driving a lot of our information before. But the situation has changed, and we are addressing schools in our areas where we have a lot of dense population, but now we've got several areas in our demographic area that are now shrinking in size, and we're not showing any growth in those areas. There's no new development going in those areas. So when we take a look at this, we take all this and put this in consideration. So when we look at facility usage for our elementary, if you look at the row that says campus, the ones that are highlighted in red, that is because they had a facility condition index that showed that we really needed during our long-term evaluation study that these campuses, there was something that really needed to be done with these campuses. The condition of these campuses are not where they need to be. But then when you go over to our facility usage index across the board, you will see that we have a lot of campuses that are being underutilized. And so overall, we have a 67% utilization of our elementary school. And just so you know, in the blue, that's optimal, but that really and truly, that is showing that your building is used at its full potential, and that could be, if we had any more students, could lead to overcrowding. The 80%, 80 to 89% is good, and that's really where you want your schools to be, because that means you still have room to grow, but you're in that good place and you're optimal as far as your efficiencies. Fair means that you're really not getting your full efficiency out of those schools, but it's still decent. But poor, anything that's 69 or below, that means you're actually losing money because you're not utilizing. Think about a house that you have, a 5-bedroom house for 2 people. They're not being utilized, and you're spending money on electricity and all these other things that you really don't have need for. So it's time to downsize. When we look at our middle schools, again, the two that are highlighted in red on the under the campus. That's because the condition index showed that these needed attention. When you look at our overall middle schools, you'll see that overall we are 57% underutilized across the district. When you take a look at our high schools are a little bit better, and we're right there in that good zone at about a 75%. So we're good in our high schools. But let's take a look at our current operating budget. So this is our adopted budget for 25-26. So and this is our operating budget. So this is where you start. So when we start budget in February, this is where you start from. So we've got to start. We have the deficit budget. It continues with you. So the board approved a negative $22 million deficit budget last year, and then we have the enrollment loss, and so now just operational, we're sitting at a $27.5 million deficit budget. So this is the reason why overall, it's okay. This is why overall, we as a district have to look at what we're going to do in the future, because we have got to attack this operating budget. Now, this is as of right now, and just want the board to keep in mind that the legislative did the teacher retention allotment, and many of our schools that are surrounding us got bigger amounts, and so now where we used to be one of the second top paying districts, we're now at the bottom paying of our teacher pay because of that teacher retention allotment that was put on by the state. Because we're big, we got the lower amount, while all our surrounding districts are small, so they got the bigger amount. So that's also somewhere we have to keep in mind in trying to retain and recruit teachers. Also, our staffing. We knew that a couple of years ago we did do a staffing study that showed that in our other areas we are lacking. We're not up to market in several of our auxiliary positions. And so with this kind of a budget, we're not able to even attack those needs because operationally we're not where we need to be. So now it's time to try and look and do a deep dive. We thought that with the legislative session coming on board that we were going to get additional money. We didn't get that additional money, so now the only way is to either look at our own blueprint and see what we can do internally, or go back out to the taxpayers and ask for a VADER. And if you look at across the state where the VADERs, they did not pass, because I mean, right now, I think everybody in the economy is hurting, and so that's not something that we need to do. So before we do that, we've got to take a look at ourselves and what we can do as a district to try and save money overall. So now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Dr. Clement, and she's going to go through some school consolidation considerations.
I'm a little shorter. Good morning, everybody. So happy to be here. We're going to go over school consolidation considerations that the committee came up with based on our facility usage index, our facility condition index, and our enrollments and where we are right now. If you'll turn to page 2 in your packet, school consolidations, the plans for consideration are listed. We will go over Elementary School Plan 1, which will detail the consideration to rezone Castorius Elementary and Sanders Elementary with Dawson, Galvan, Los Encinos, and Yeager Elementary Schools. We'll then follow that with Elementary School Plan 2 in rezoning Fannin Elementary School with Berlanga, Garcia, and Hicks Elementary Schools. Elementary School Plan 3 will review Travis Elementary Schools being rezoned and consolidated with Allen, Houston, Shaw, and Zavala Elementary Schools. After we're done reviewing the elementary school plans, we will move on to middle school. We have 3 middle schools that are being considered in these plans, and Middle School Plan 1A is to rezone Brown Middle School with students at Adkins, Grant, Haas, and Hamlin Middle School. Plan B from Middle School Plan 1 is to rezone both Brown and Haas Middle School with Adkins, Grant, and Hamlin Middle School. And then our final plan we'll review today will be rezoning Martin Middle School and splitting it between Cunningham Middle School at South Park and Driscoll Middle School. So let's get started with Plan 1, Elementary School 1. On page 4, you'll see our current Carroll VLC elementary boundaries, and also includes part of the Moody VLC. Pictured on this slide are the current boundary zones for elementaries in the Carroll VLC. And to familiarize yourself with this data, hello. It helps if I advance, right? Yes, thank you. Thank you. If you'll look at this, you'll look at the first column. It shows you the campus capacity without portables. We listed this, just your brick and mortar building is what we utilize for this, so we'd be consistent across all the campuses. The second column is the currently zoned students in that area for each. Zoned means they're not necessarily enrolled, but this many kids that could be attending that school or be in that boundary live there. The snapshot enrollment that the state uses for our enrollment and our attendance and everything else is listed, and that was taken on October 31st. This was the current enrollment at each of those campuses. And then the last column is the percent of capacity currently being used with the current enrollment students that are there. As we move forward through this, know that part of these enrollments that you'll see on the current snapshot, we've already taken out the students who are maybe on transfers, or they are attending Metro E, or they're attending Windsor Park. They are not included in the snapshot numbers. These are actual students enrolled currently there. You may wonder, and in this one and in others, you may wonder why Galvan Elementary has a higher number of enrollment students than the students that are actually zoned and live in their district. There are 453 students that live in the attendance zone, but 514 are enrolled. So what we have in this situation is, for example, is they have 112 students that are emergent bilingual that attend Galvan Elementary because there's an emergent bilingual programs that are there. That's why they go there. And so, and there's also another difference for those reasons that you'll see sometimes a little higher is sometimes we have the parents of students who are employees that take their own children to the school, so they might not be in their boundary, but then they attend that school. Let's move to Elementary School Plan 1. And this one's gonna cover consolidating Custoris Elementary and Sanders Elementary. Are you moving it for me then? Thank you, Cyrus. Apologize. Okay, this one will rezone, Custoris would rezone between Los Encinos, Galvan, and Yeager. Sanders would be rezoned between Dawson and Galvan. At Galvan Elementary, there are 4 portables that are not included in this count. They're double classrooms. So if those will be used, which they could, and most likely will be, the percent capacity for Galvan will go down to 79% instead of the 97%. By consolidating Custoris and Sanders, you can see that we have gone from, Club Estates will have no changes, but we have gone from Dawson Elementary, sitting at 65% facility usage, to 91%. Galvan, to 94, but actually would be 97 with would be 79 with the portables. And then looking at Los Encinos would move from 46% facility usage to 62%. And finally, Yeager would move from 66% facility use to a healthy 91%. If this plan is adopted, there would be plans by the district to develop for facility upgrades in order to support Yeager Elementary and Sanders. I apologize, and Sanders Elementary in order to and Shannon Elementary in order to upgrade their buildings. Apologize. Okay, all the numbers are floating together. Let's move to Elementary School Plan 2, and that will be on page 7. Next one's Iris. Go ahead. Okay. So this is the current Fannin area elementary boundaries. Berlanga sits at 76%. Fannin is at a facility usage of 55%. Garcia is a facility usage of 53%, and Hicks is at 69%. So we move to the next slide, and if we consolidate Fannin into Berlanga, Garcia, and Hicks, Berlanga will go to a healthy 90% facility usage. Garcia will move to a 67%, and Hicks will move to an 80%. One thing that is to remember about this plan is that Fannin students that live across Crosstown Expressway, moving towards Garcia Elementary and being rezoned there, would receive transportation since they would be crossing a major highway. They don't have to be within the mile limit for transportation. They would be provided that. Let's move to the next plan. Go to page 10. This one reviews current Travis Elementary School boundaries. As you'll see, Allen is at 46%, Berlanga's at 76 currently, Garcia is at 53%, but that's already including the Fannin numbers being included in there. And so just recognize that we've already added those so that you can see the ending number. Houston's at 61, Manger's at 68, Shaw's at 77, Travis is at 84, and Zavala's at 41%. By consolidating Travis into Allen, Garcia, Houston, and Shaw, Allen would move from 46% capacity usage to 63%. Garcia would move from 53% to 83% usage. Houston would move from 61 to 73%. Shaw would move from 77 to 76%, and there's a caveat here. In order for us to move students that are closer to Shaw out of here, we're recommending moving 111 students out of Shaw and sending them to Zavala, where Zavala would move them up to a 53% capacity. Zavala's a very big school, it's new, and it could take on those students. And some of those students actually live closer to Zavala than they do to Shaw currently. Let's move on to middle schools. Page 13. The first one we're going to go over is the current boundaries for Brown Middle School and Haas. As you can see, Adkins Middle School, that is one of our newest, is sitting at 36% facility usage right now. 36% of the building is being used. Brown is at 62%, Grant is 60%, Haas is at 42%, and Hamlin is at 60%. Let's move to the next page so that you can see the change with Middle School Plan A. If Middle School Plan A is adopted, then Brown Middle School would be moving to campuses of Adkins, Grant, Haas, and Hamlin. In addition, 157 students from Haas would be rezoned to Adkins to increase the enrollment. This would put us at Adkins with a 55% and 225 more students, Grant at 88% with 360 additional students, Haas at 43% with 17 additional students, and Hamlin at 76% with 118 students. As I stated before, there's a second option also with middle schools. The second option is to consolidate both Brown and Haas Middle School. And you can see on slide 15 the impact that has on capacity, percent of capacity. Adkins would take on the students that are at Haas, the 523, and be at a percentage capacity of 79%, still giving them room if we have additional subdivisions or anything that pops up or additional students, they would have extra room there. Grant would take 400 to a 91% facility usage. Hamlin would go to an 82%, still giving them as well additional room. The last option that I'm going to cover today is Martin Middle School. Martin Middle School sits right between Cunningham and Driscoll. Cunningham currently sits at 56% facility usage. Driscoll is at 60%, and Martin is at 61%. If we move to slide 18, you can see that by consolidating Martin, and really basically almost splitting it in half, 195 students would go to Cunningham, raising its facility percent capacity to 72%. 194 would go to Driscoll, and raising that to 84%. The next slides I'm going to go over with you is what kind of impact would this have on the high schools? So, with the different middle school options, I wanted to make sure that I covered that with y'all. If you go to slide 20, there is the current high school boundaries and their percent capacity for each, and I went ahead and just listed all of them. Carroll currently is at 79% with 1,896 students. King is at 62% with 1,245 students. Miller Metro High School is at 82% with the 1,326. Moody, with an enrollment of 1,235, is at 64%. Ray High School with 1,439 is at 65, and Vets is 1,992, which is 83%. I do want to caution you that high school enrollments are very fluid because our students transfer and move from one program of study to another. Those numbers, depending on the program that they want to attend or any type of recruitment that is being done in order for them to do a study there, then these numbers are very fluid. They can shift and change at any time. Let's go to slide 21 first. What slide 21 includes is Middle School Plan 1A. That is the one where only Brown would be consolidated and Martin. Haas would not be consolidated in this plan. In this plan, Carroll would be projected to go down 322 students to be at a 66% capacity. King would go up 129 students to a 68% capacity. Miller Metro High School would go down to 317 students to 62% capacity, and Moody High School would go up 317 students to 80% capacity. Ray High School would take an additional 193 students to sit at 74%, and Vets would remain the same with an 83% capacity. Let's move to page 22. The high school plan that would include the consolidation of all three middle schools, Martin, Haas, and Brown. If you look at the facility usage here, Carroll actually loses a little bit less, and they go only 197 students down to a 71% capacity. With King High School, there would be no change because if Haas was consolidated with Adkins, it's got one feeder, and that Adkins feeder would feed into King and still allow for any growth in that area that may potentially happen and then feed directly into King as well. Miller Metro High School would lose 285 students and go to 64%. One thing to note is that Miller is our smallest high school. It was the one originally built many, many years ago. And so its facility usage is not comparable to the amount of students it has because it was built smaller. And so Moody High School would take in 197 students from the Martin consolidation and be at 74%. Ray High School would take in 285 to be at 78%, and then Vets would remain the same. Again, like I said, these are very fluid numbers in terms of high school, but I wanted to give you an idea of the impact of the middle schools and what that may, at least in our fluid numbers, looks like right now.
Just a quick question. Martin used to be a feeder for Moody High School, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Martin was a feeder at one time, and then it was rezoned to go to Miller.
And that was like 2 years ago?
It was about
4 years ago?
about 4 to 5 years ago, yes, sir. Are there any questions?
Couple of questions. On when you move those students out of, excuse me, we talked about this yesterday briefly, but when you move those students out of Miller High School and take it down to 1,000 plus, how is that going to affect the sports categorizing? And would that put us, our district, in a multiple, I guess, tier category of football and all of that? And then in that case, then would that also add or bump up our expenses for sports because we are moving in different zones?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and that has been discussed several times. The answer is yes. It would drop them where they currently are at a 5A to a 4A. The good thing for our area here is that we have plenty of 4A, 5A schools for the most part. When you start getting up to 6A, you have to go down to the Valley or San Antonio. And right below 6A is 5A D1, which is right now Veterans is the only school that's a 5A D1. So they are not football-wise in the same district with all of our other schools. They do go down to the Valley. All the other sports would remain the same, but for the snapshot date that we turned in for October 31st, the current projections already, even with none of this, has Miller falling into the 4A category.
So
Because
technically,
the range is like, I want to say maybe from 600 to 1,200.
And since we are already in that category range, how has that affected our bottom line for transportation, for out-of-town games, for all of that feeds into our expenses?
Yeah, so it has been an increase, most likely for veterans, because when they used to play our own Corpus Christi schools, now they're playing teams in the Valley. That travel didn't used to have to happen. If we were to have the schools go down to 4A, most likely the district we would be in would be with Cal Allen, Toloso Midway, Rockport Fulton, Sinton. Alice is also going to go down to 4A, and so that right there is still close enough, almost like Corpus Christi schools. It wouldn't be that much further. But because it does involve a little travel, right now most of their games are at Buck or Cadmus. But they might have to travel there, which they do some of that in the preseason anyway. We play Cal Allen, we play Toloso Midway, we play Alice, and so our teams do drive to those stadiums right now.
Yeah, I think that would just flip, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we play those schools later.
That's right.
And
That's
travel
district.
there, and then play our other schools.
That's
and
right.
not travel. So to answer your question, I think it hasn't happened yet, but I'm glad you said that it's projected that Miller's going to go down to 4A.
It's also projected that Carroll would be Division I, 5A, which means that they'll probably have to go back down, same route that Vets is going down to the Valley. So there would be additional costs as far as Carroll travel is concerned. In football only, but the rest of them would be locally as far as their district. But that would be an additional cost as well.
Well, my question though is, what is the percentage of cost that we would incur? I understand what everybody said, and that's the reason why I'm asking the question,
How much?
because I know it's going to affect that. But my concern is, at what level are we going to have to dish out money?
I think that's a figure we can put together. We can get with athletics to see what it was this year, because this was this was the second year that Vets was in D1. Before that, like we said, they were with all our other schools. But we can study that, because like Mr. Bell said, if the projections hold up and UIL doesn't change the cutoffs, we could have Carroll join Vets in that district. But Miller's not the only school that could be projected to go down to 4A. It could also be Moody, because their numbers are right there, and as well as Keene.
So if those numbers do play out or fall out, how many categories are we entertaining in CCISD?
Yeah, so we would have 3 4A and the other 3 high schools 5A.
Okay. So, in terms of Miller High School going down into the low thousands, how's that going to affect? And Dr. Clement and I had a conversation about this as well. But how's that going to? I don't know. How's it going to affect our students in terms of academics and morale? Especially in the community. And I think that's one of the things that we have to kind of have a conversation about before our customers or our students or our parents start having the conversation for us, such that we can have some kind of responses, because with the social media going on and everything, we got to get out in front of things. We got to tell our story before somebody backfills it. And so I'm just kind of concerned about the idea of dropping down that low. I do get it that our students at Miller High School will perhaps receive some very good instructions with the lower numbers and all of that. But I kind of am... I'm having a feeling about that thing, and I can't really explain it at this point in time, but I think it is a point of consideration. And so I think that that's another thing that we need to put on the table and have some answers to once our parents and we start to visit with the community about all of this kind of stuff. Next question that I have is, and this is all about transportation, and I know we are busing our students right now. I know that this will incur some additional busing of students. Am I correct? Because if we get rid of these schools, they're no longer there. They're no longer considered neighborhood schools and things like that. That is going to bump up our need for additional buses, bus schedules, bus drivers, and that is something we have just had to deal with year after year after year in terms of attracting bus drivers and keeping them. I mean, I'd be willing to drive a bus if it becomes necessary. I don't know if y'all would allow me to do that, but I could certainly drive one. But and I'm saying that, that's not, I'm not unjust here. I know that we have our limitations, but we need to really consider that, because that is going to be a tremendous undertaking to get rid of these many schools and have to transport children over major roads and highways and over boundary and zone lines. And so I just want to make sure that that is fully discussed and, as my board member says, discussed and cussed, or whatever, because I think it's really an important facet of getting our children to the classes on time. And there's also concern about even adjusting the day in terms of what time certain campuses get started versus elementary, middle school, and high school. One last observation or question in my mind before I turn this over to somebody else. I never understood why Martin Middle School was built where it was built. It sits in the back door of Cunningham at the time. The Cunningham was still part of that whole community. That's just something that's in my mind. You don't need to respond to that. I just want y'all to know I'm thinking about that.
I would like to provide a little bit of feedback on both of the ones that you mentioned. The one thing with Miller, this was a very hard for all of you, for all of us, recognizing that we've gone down so many enrollment of students and knowing that we have buildings, in most cases, that are newer, that can take in the students to right-size our district was a really hard decision in terms of the consolidation planning for you guys. And I know this is really hard for all of y'all as well as it will be for our community. So we look forward to getting a lot of feedback from them. You're right, we looked at saying pros and cons. What are the pros for Miller in specifically? Our when we look at the whole picture, and you know this, all of our population that attend schools or families that have school-age children are moving towards the west, the south side and the central. And so by default, it's Miller that ends up having even the least amount of students. Now, they've been there before because in 2009, 2010, and 2011, Miller had numbers in the 900s. And so, but then they came back up. When we moved Martin especially, they came back up because we took all of Martin and sent them there. The advantage there, a little pro, is that it becomes a smaller learning environment in one of our smallest high schools, to the point that you get to the point to where you know every child's name, because sometimes in an at-risk, under-resourced neighborhood, that can be a good thing. But then there's also the loss of, you've lost more students. It's a balance. You just don't know which way is the best way to go. But we know that we're in a deficit. But yes, many conversations and many listening sessions need to be held so that we can hear people out and understand where they're coming from and any ideas that they can also provide. Second, on the transportation, that is a big conversation and discussion of planning that will have to go into play. One thing we know is that many of the schools that we're considering closing already have transportation that comes to them and buses students, so those will automatically be rerouted to where the others need them, could be picked up on different routes, but we also have to be more inventive because there will be additional needs as well. And Martin being built, somebody 20 years, 40 years from now will ask why we built, something where we were. I'm with you. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just to follow up really quick, I appreciate the anticipatory leadership and looking, these are very difficult conversations to have. As a principal, I went through 2 consolidations, so these aren't very easy conversations to have, but this is not something new. School consolidations has been going on. We've had Central Park and Casa Linda's and all those different things, and so I appreciate this team's work in being proactive and looking in the future and trying to get ahead of this, because every time something pops up on the phone, you look at CCISD closing schools, Austin closing schools. It's happening across the state. And I just wanted to piggyback on Ms. Hawkins asked that. It's really hard to project the cost, what we would incur, because let's say these things happen and every single one of our teams makes it to the playoffs, which is a great problem to have. It's going to be hard to, and so it's hard. And I see that cost, inquiring about those costs, things like that. And it would be great to see those kind of things like that. But it's a living, breathing number, because let's say all the teams make the playoffs, then there's going to be huge costs incurred, and so kind of things like that. But yeah, projection would be nice to see and things like that. But appreciate this, y'all's reports and hard work on this. Thank you so much.
Just a little further clarification, when you're looking at how much it's going to cost, we're talking about Carroll and Vets being Division I 5A, but also we're talking about Ray High School being Division II 5A. And the only schools that's left with them in that group is Gregory Portland. So you're looking at Ray possibly being stuck in Laredo or stuck in San Antonio or stuck down in the valley as well. And so that's going to be, and that's just for football. And then when they all come back to play 5A for all the other sports, now you have GP, Ray, Carroll, Vets. But that means that to finish out that district, that anywhere from 2 to 4 more teams in that district, well, where do they come from? Well, there's no 5A schools around here, so that means we're looking down at, do what?
Back to Victoria.
Back to possibly Victoria.
Flower Bluff.
The Flower Bluff could be, that'd be.
It's been done before.
That's
we're talking
been,
about the same district.
Yeah.
We had the same district.
There's some possibilities there, but in football Division II, it'll affect Ray and GP as far as their travel in football. And when you're doing your cost stuff, you need to take a look at not only transporting getting the athletes there, but you got band and cheerleaders and all that kind of good stuff as well. I know that there's going to be some costs there, and I know the conversations that we're having right now are really hard conversations. What struck me, or what I tried to do before we had our pre-meeting on this, is I wanted to have all this stuff so that I could go into our pre-meeting and be informed about our conversation. And in our pre-meeting, there's a lot of stuff that is information that was coming to me that I'm just going, okay, just a second, time out, let me look at it, let me digest it on the spot. Well, I had a chance to go back and do a deep dive last night, and some questions came up and whatnot, or some observations that kind of influenced me, like sending kids to Garcia and now we're going to utilize 4 portables. That bothers me, you know.
We don't have,
What,
Galvan.
Galvan, I mean
Okay.
Galvan, sending kids to Galvan, and now we're going to start using portables so that we can accommodate the closure of the schools. I'm not so sure that's the best academic environment for our kiddos. Having kids, part of having a VLC is creating that family, the group of kids as you go through that. When you're in a classroom, you feel comfortable and safe in having conversations with your fellow classmates, doing group work, project-based learning stuff, things like that. But if you're going from I'm at Martin this year, and I understand 5 years down the road it'll be water under the bridge where this is just the way it is. But initially it will affect a lot of our kids going forward. I get that there is a balance between money and education and utilizing our facilities, and that right now we're kind of in a situation where there's no right answer. We just got to pick the best wrong answer, and that's our job. I do hear what you're saying, Ms. Hawkins, about the academic end of it and whatnot. So a lot more conversations to go forward.
Yeah, if I could just clarify on that, on the last part though, for Mr. Bell's comment. So the portables, they wouldn't be brought into the picture, they're already in the picture.
Right.
So the portables have been there at Galvan, and if you'll remember, during the bond conversations, with bond, without the bond, we had talked about, like we did at Webb, at Morelos, at Barnes, where we could add a wing
Right.
and get rid of those portables
Right.
at some point. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that was still there.
Right.
There's also, if these options are considered and we go into the discovery phase, is what I call it, the process,
Right.
we could also look at the 112 students that we have transferred that are being moved, that are on transfers to Galvan for EB. There are space at our other schools that we could take off those 112 or some of them and probably drop Galvan to an 80% capacity with that. We can get creative with that if needed. Another thing that I wanted to make sure that I was clear, with the Carroll, it currently, I believe it's projected to be with the vets. If it stays the way it is, if it goes into, if these changes are made and it goes down a bit, it'll be with Ray. So either way, whether we, right now, or whether we do this or not, they're still either playing in 5A1, and I forget which one, or 5A2. Yeah.
But these numbers are, we've already submitted our numbers, so wherever we
For
fall,
these 2
we
years.
fall for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So if we put this into play next year, Carroll High School is going to be playing Division I 5A with Division II 4A, Division II 5A numbers. If we do the Brown-Martin plan, that'd be at 1574. But that's, I
Yeah,
get the
just wanna
athletic,
make
athletics shouldn't drive our academics, but it's something to consider.
and I just want to remind everyone that this isn't just a CCISD problem. This is happening across the
Right.
state. So everyone is losing numbers. So as we're speaking today, in 2 years when we redo the UIL zones, it could totally change across
Right,
the board
right, I
anyway,
get it.
regardless of the size of our school. And so just like we've done every biennium, we adjust to the new zones. We
Right.
currently have budget. We up some schools and we lower some schools to offset. The travel is not going to be, we will get our students there. But
Right.
again, y'all bring this up and it's part of our operating budget. So we want to make sure that we have money to do these kind of things.
Right.
So, and then I also want to remind y'all about the conditions of Sanders, Yeager, Custoris, and Shannon Estates. This is not an easy puzzle. It's not an easy fix. All 4 of those schools are deteriorating. Each one of them has their own little unique situation that the district has to address. It's not a good fit, but Are they in a better place? Yes. And, they may temporarily need to be in portables until maybe we could get a new wing built, but still, in some of these other conditions, it is better condition than what they're already in.
Okay.
I have a comment, if I might. I know that this is in the talking phases right now. Some final decisions to be made. And I understand too that the trajectory of these changes and closures and moving kids around can be done in stages, or we can just rip the Band-Aid off and just do it whenever. I'm not sure how this all will shake out, but my question is, you started your conversation with the $27 million that we have as a deficit. And my concern or question is, at what stage can any of this be done? Maybe take it all at one time, or do it in half, or do elementary first, or however it gets eventually structured out. Where are we, to what extent then is that going to affect that 27 million that we are in the hole?
That's a really important question, but before we move on to that, I wanted to ask a couple questions too, and make a comment. First of all, I think one thing to consider, and that some of us have maybe talked about on the middle schools, is that the improvements that some of these students would be getting, in pertaining to athletics, Brown and Haas only have one gym now. They'd be going to schools where they do have two gyms. So, and to newer campuses where they're going to have improvement on the facilities. So that's a one upgrade there. And on the transportation piece, I understand the rerouting, and without getting into all the details on that, do we have enough buses to accommodate all of that, or would we have to purchase new?
Okay, we're going to look at that, but buses isn't the issue because we can buy buses. But the problem that we continuously have is the drivers. And so Kyle and his crew are currently remapping these so they can see what the need would be and see how we could make these adjustments with our current staff with the thought that we couldn't get any more drivers.
Well, and I get that, but buying the buses isn't cheap, and if we're trying to cut the
Well,
deficit...
I understand. And what I mean by that is that that's like a one-time fix for the next 17 years, and we do have buses. Our problem right now is the bus drivers.
Okay. And then the last thing is kind of a big thing on the, academic outcomes. I mean, we're really proud of getting our rating up to a B overall. Some of these campuses that we're talking about have strong ratings. They've made really big improvements. Without getting into every single campus, can you talk about what your thought is on how that's going to affect and how we can, it's going to affect the academic outcomes and blending these schools, and how we can assure that we're doing the best for all these students and keeping our academic rating strong?
Great question. One thing I did want to add to the middle schools, all three of them only have one gym, including Martin. Just so you're aware, every other middle school we have in the district has two gyms except those three schools. And so when I'm looking at, let's say, Custoris and Sanders right now sits at a 75C, which is they've come up, they made growth and gains. Custoris is an 84B. Dawson is an 89B. Galvan is an 84B. Los Encinos is a B. Jaeger is a B. They would all be going to B schools. Same thing is said for Fannin and Travis. The only one that made major gains is a C, is Shaw. The rest are all, and Berlanga, the rest are all B schools. And for Martin, that currently is our D school that's being discussed in this, the only one, is they would be moving to both Cunningham and Driscoll if this was adopted, and they're both C schools that have made major improvements. And having them, and I just want to put this caveat from curriculum instruction, right now with the campuses that we have, even though there's low numbers of students, we spread out to support all of them. By bringing them together, we're able to provide more resources to that one campus that supports all those schools and a lot less campuses, and be able to actually utilize more efficiently our staff and the work that we do for them. It would really help academically for all our kids. Yes, sir.
You may have already mentioned this. I stepped out. I apologize for that. But considering the circumstance that Martin is in right now as a middle school, did you expand on that to the board with TEA and what that's going to allow us to do by closing Martin, moving it to others?
Martin Middle School is right now in its third unacceptable rating from the state. It's the only campus we have like that. Has had 2 Fs and a D rating. They improved this last year to a D, but the state will not remove them from that list until they attain a C. They're in third year right now. Even the commissioner told us when we were visited with him last week, said you do not want to go into year 4. An option for Corpus Christi ISD as part of their action plan would be to close Martin Middle School and allow the other schools to absorb them. We receive grants that support, and we support Martin with a lot of extra state and federal funding through grants and also to support the campus because of the status that they're in. We would now be able to direct that to Driscoll and to Cunningham for the transition and for the ongoing support of these students. In addition, the smaller your campus is at the elementary and middle school level, not necessarily at the high school, but elementary and middle school because they don't have CCMR like high school does or graduation rate. The smaller you are, the more harsh this accountability system is on you. Martin is a small school, so they are also saddled with that. Driscoll has been losing enrollment, and they are less than 100 kids away from Martin's size. So this would increase both of them to a healthy number that would also help them through accountability and allow us to focus our resources that are right now across 3 campuses to 2. Thank you.
Just a real couple of questions, observations. First off, our last bond, we tried to add a gym to Haas, correct? And so if I'm hearing this correct, if Haas had a second gym, then we wouldn't even be talking about them right now.
Not necessarily, only because had we done that, at the time, there was a lot of growth that was going to happen, that was expected to happen, and now it's not. Our reasoning here really isn't about the gym. It's about the enrollment size that's at Haas and the 36% usage that's at Adkins Middle School. That is a wonderful, great, big school, and it's new.
Right, I get
Yeah.
all of that. And so, but I'm pretty confident if we had a second gym at Haas or at Tom Brown or even Martin for that fact, we probably wouldn't be having a conversation about them. And the reason that we built second gym is to alleviate practice time for our kiddos. We have so many kiddos and they're all playing and practicing and things like that. So let's take that, let's project that forward. Let's close Tom Brown. At Tom Brown, we have all of it's really an entry level for all of our kiddos to be involved in extracurricular activities. When we go to Grant or Atkins or Hamlet or whatever, those opportunities are going to be stressed at best and eliminated at worst. And the example that I'm going to give is volleyball. At Tom Brown, and I don't know the numbers, but we start the year and we have 25, 30 girls that want to play volleyball. And they have probably 45 girls at Grant. Now we're going to ship them all, we're going to put them all at Grant, and now we have 70 girls that are trying to make a volleyball team. Somebody's going to get cut. Somebody's not going to make the team. Somebody's not going to have that opportunity that if we have Tom Brown is still playing volleyball and Grant's still playing volleyball, we have kiddos that have that opportunity. And I'm going to say the phrase that everybody loves to hear. Data shows that the kiddos, if they're involved in extracurricular activities, and you can fill that blank in with anything, and especially at middle school, their grades are better and their attendance is better. So when we eliminate those opportunities, so at what cost is that elimination? Well, we're looking at Tom Brown, $2 million. We're going to save $2 million. So those kiddos that may or may not have that opportunity, we can say we have 2 gyms. We're not going to cut. Everybody's going to have. But there's a difference between me being the starting setter at Tom Brown Middle School and me being the B team setter at Grant Middle School, or vice versa. I'm at Grant Middle School and I was the starting setter. Now I'm the B team. That opportunity, or in band, or the dance teams that they have, or any of the clubs and organizations, when we start closing schools, and I know y'all know this, that we close those opportunities. And so my whole deal is we're trying to save money. And the conversation we had the other day at our meeting is that this is really $8 million and a $27 million deficit or a $350 million budget is really kind of a drop. I would like to have us really kind of attack the big savings, wherever that is, because we know where the big savings are in our district. We need to do this. I know we need to do this, but I'm not so sure closing middle schools and affecting the high schools is the way to go. I think the elementary schools we need to take a hard look at. Martin is something that we need to take a look at because of the academic performance. Tom Brown was struggling about 5 or 6 years ago. Well, y'all made a change over there with leadership, and they have just done this, just done that. That community is really rallied around Tom Brown Middle School. Now we're talking about closing it. Academically, I don't think it makes sense for us to do that. That's definitely the conversation I think we need to have as we go forward with the community.
One question before, and this is for you, Karen, when you get started. I know that when we start shuffling and combining and closing and all of that, and we had a brief talk about that yesterday in terms of our staffers and teachers, and your response to me was that you will make great efforts to accommodate the increase in students, and that you will do what you can, the best you can, to staff each of these locations that are students are increasing. What I'd like to see, or if possible, and this is a lot of work and I know what I'm asking, is that with each one of these closures, could you give us some type of numbers in terms of how much we're going to save based on closures, the staffers that are going to be moved from one location to the other? And I know it's hypothetical because you've got to make those decisions if it happens, but what's the savings? How many people are we going to have to cut completely out of our roles? The one thing I do laud CCISD for is the fact that every time we've made a move in some way, y'all have really tried to not fire or cut teachers off, and I really appreciate that. And I know that the teachers will also, or instructors, whoever, they appreciate that as well. But what I'd like to see is the results, the hypothetical results of each of these movements in consolidating and closing and all that, ultimately what it would look like. Since we have the numbers of the students, you know how many we're going to be shifting, what the need is, how much it's going to cost, and then ultimately how many potentially will be let go.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's move on to estimated, I'm sorry.
Move to answering that question.
I think the questions have been great that have been asked, and the considerations. But two things, academically, is something that really we have spent a lot of time in looking at these considerations. And, Dr. Clement has already indicated that staff is already, even before any major considerations or decisions are made, looking at those situations, Marty, for example, that you explained or asked about, and Mrs. Hawkins, because it's not only athletics, but the primary issue is instruction and the support that we've given. And I liked what Dr. Clement had mentioned, that as you consolidate, you have schools then that have reduced in numbers, and you're able to more appropriately address some of those academic needs. Athletically, though, I wanted to kind of make a comment. And Mr. Bell, you talk about possibly depleting the opportunity for participation. One of the things that I have seen, for example, and I'll use Carroll as an example, the fact that that program has increased like it has has provided the opportunity for more involvement in that, and I'll speak, let's say specifically about football. You have additional teams at each level, freshman and junior varsity, that have been fielded that gives more, not only more opportunity for participation, but even a better opportunity for that program to develop. And then that has happened also in volleyball. I've got granddaughters that have participated, and they also have multiple A and B teams at every level, freshman and sophomore, and junior varsity. So I'm not certain that in any consolidation effort, and I understand what you're saying, at this school I might be the starting quarterback. Because of this, my opportunity for next year not to be that. And it's all about competition and development and hard work. As a parent, I've seen that happen in how things changed for some of our children's athletic possibilities. They work hard, you make a commitment, but I really also give a lot of credit to our sponsors, or in that respect, as far as athletics, the coaches. They really feel, more committed to their programs when they know that they have a multitude of students to work at, and knowing that it's not going to be, I'm going to cut 20 of 45 people that come by. It's now I'm going to have an opportunity to really have a strong A and B team at my freshman and junior varsity level in whatever sport that they look at. So, given I'm not a coach, I've not been a coach, but I've seen how those things have evolved with my children being athletic students, but also in seeing how the program, for example, at Carroll has really increased and to a very positive level. And yes, not only does it impact academics, but the enthusiasm and the culture of the community just kind of rises to itself, and it does increase attendance. It just has a positive effect. But I think that in athletics, if you have the opportunity to have 100 people or students to pick from, to know that you're going to have the varsity, the junior varsity, and freshmen have multiple opportunities and teams, I think that's a real plus in consolidations. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go on estimated cost savings. So I want to, this is all in the general fund, and these are real. So when you look at the salaries for fiscal year 26, this is our budget, and this is how much it's costing us in salaries at each one of these campuses. Now, I want to reiterate that 80% of our budget is salaries. So if we're going to do cuts, this is where we're going to do cuts, is in salaries, because that's where the district is going to find the dollars. So when you look at salaries, you can see that these campuses...
Is it truly 80%?
It could be 82. I need to go back and look at that. But it's in the 80s, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
sir. So then you have your salary amount, you have your utilities. So these are what we actually spent in fiscal year 25. So we're showing you actual amounts that we spent in utilities in 2025. And then in 2026, this is the actual amount that we're paying this year for insurance on these facilities. So you can see the grand total is about $24.5 million just on these campuses alone. Now, when you see the conservative estimate savings, what we did is we went in and we said, okay, if we consolidate, this is the number of employees that can be reduced. What I can't predict is who's going to leave. For instance, if I have a brand new teacher with her salary and benefits, that may be costing me around $65,000. I could have a veteran teacher that's 25 years plus, and so I'm paying her close to $95,000 with salary and benefits. I don't know which one is going to leave. I don't know which one is staying. So I can't give you that. That's why this is conservative, because I'm going to go on the lower, just to be on the safe side, to say that I can assure that we're gonna save this amount of money. That's why I'm giving you the conservative amount of money, because I know at a minimum I'm going to save this. It could be more. We're anticipating more. But again, I don't have that crystal ball to tell you who's going to leave me at the end of the year. So that's why it's very hard for me to answer that question. So we went on the basis of the lower on the salary pay grade. But I do know that I'm going to save my utilities, and I do know that I'm going to save on my insurance. You will see that Haas is highlighted in gray, and the reason why that one is highlighted in gray is because we don't anticipate closing that campus as far as demolishing it. Now, we are going to recommend that the other ones be demolished, but Haas we would like to keep, and we'll find another use. It will not be for students, but we'll find another use internally because that school still has good bones to it, and so we don't really want that one. So we'll have to keep the utilities on, and we'll have to keep insurance. So that's the reason why that one is highlighted in gray, and it's a lesser amount that we would save keeping that building open. But again, the salaries are where you find the savings, okay? And then the room, when you look at it, is costing us money to keep these buildings open. And so in all these plans that we presented to you, you'll see that we are moving these kids, with the exception of the elementary plan 1, you'll see that they're all going to our newer underutilized schools. So it's a benefit to these students. All these students will be benefiting from this, from these moves, and that's what we've got to keep in mind as the students in the best interest of what's good for our students. So that's where these numbers are coming from, and that is a conservative estimate that we are rest assured that we're going to save, but our hope is that we're going to save even more.
That's if all this is done in one fell swoop, right?
Correct. And if it's not, we can always just take the line item. If you decide to only do elementary schools, then you can take the estimated saving. That's why I broke it down by campus for you, so you can estimate what that would be estimated per campus. If you wanted to do just each part or these schools and not these schools, that's why I broke it down by school for you.
Well, and I guess that I'm not as clear on this money thing as I should be, or maybe it's above my pay grade or whatever. But say everything remains the same in terms of how many employees we have, and when we do the shakeout of all of these schools or whatever, that is going to affect, and I understand this business about who stays and who decides to go. I get that. But across the board, without any changes in terms of loss of employees, how would that affect this? If you take everything right now as it is and in one fell swoop move it, this is the number. That's what you're telling us.
Yes.
The 10 million.
Almost 11 million, yes.
Almost 11
And that's a
million.
conservative number. That's based on saying that you're taking the lowest teachers out.
So if we throw a wrench in the works and decide that we're only going to do a portion of this, then can we just extrapolate that from this number?
Yeah, so that's why I broke it to you by campus. So you can just take the campuses that you are wanting to close, and you can take those amounts to see what you're going to save.
All things remaining the same.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Karen, and just making sure that this is understood, that doesn't include the average maintenance cost
No,
on these buildings.
I took those aside because those are, I can't predict from one year to another, just like we were looking at some of the schools. Some
But
of
that-
them may have
Yeah,
70.
regardless of what it
Yes.
was, though, would be in addition to this amount.
Correct.
Yes.
Well, okay, thank you.
So any questions on this?
There, I mean, I realize it's not in the factored in the same way, but there is some cost associated with this plan as well, right? I mean, just the implementation. If we went with this full plan with, you know, a new roof on a building, or some improvements, like you said, to a couple of the schools that need to be improved in order to accommodate the new students going in, et cetera.
Correct.
But those are, I mean, I know they're not in this figure, but they're in a different part of the budget, but there is going to be some cost associated.
Yes, correct. And for instance, on Shannon Estates, we're keeping Shannon Estates. We did go out and look at a different option for the re-roof. Right now, it was costing us about $3.4 million. Trent did go out and get a different quote on a what is it called? Like a rubber, a coating roof instead of doing that. There are some issues that have to be fixed because of the roof, but we came back and we got a price of about a $1.2 million to re-roof that instead of the 3.4. So we would look at that, but that would come out of our capital outlay fund. It wouldn't come out of 199. But yes, there would also be some probably upgrades that we would want to do to some of these other campuses just to put reinforcement and make sure that they were ready. And I would bring those back to you. And that was kind of the reason why the committee also recommended selling these other lands to kind of offset those costs as well, that we know that we'll need to be put into some of these buildings.
Coating? When you say coating, is that stuff they're talking about spraying on top of the roof and you got looks like a new roof and lasts another 5 years? Is that the same thing that we're talking about?
The coating itself is not sprayed on. It's actually rolled on the surface. Campuses won't even know that contractors are actually on the roof. There's no disturbance to anybody inside or anything like that. But it's typically the work will last about a week and rolled on.
And how much, and you said that will buy us 5 years? Did I hear that, or am I hearing something else? What's it going to buy for us if we do something like that?
It would buy us a significant time to make a long-term decision that's kind of supporting us long-term wise, but I would say at least 5 to 7 at the minimum.
Years?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it has a longer warranty period.
Well, it's
than that.
got a longer lifespan for it, but I'm saying, like, if we wanted to, the warranty itself is 20 years. The silicone?
I'm sorry.
We need some clarity on this.
Yeah, no, the silicone roofing itself, the warranty is a 20-year roof warranty. But it's going to buy a significant time to make a proper decision here.
But the 20-year warranty, is that just standard across the board, or is it based on the condition of the roof before you do all of this?
That's a standard warranty that's for this product.
So if they go out, spray the roof, you got 20-year guarantees?
Yes, and we just call that contractor back, and they'll come back and make those repairs if there's any repairs that need to be made.
Okay, so the reputation of the company that's doing it too is in question as well, right? Because these people go into business, make a quick dollar, and jump out, and then where are we? Is that reality? Thank you.
Yes, but
Okay.
That would be
I
with
want
any.
to make sure we stay on track, because this is something we will definitely discuss when this comes up for approval, right? I mean,
Yes.
we can discuss that further when it comes up for approval.
I'm going to jump into this, and it's going to seem weird that I'm jumping into it, but it's a single member membrane, correct?
it's a silicone-based roof.
Right. It's being used all across the state. Ingleside installed it.
Ingleside
correct?
just
How
installed
did it
this
perform
roof.
during the hailstorm?
There was no damage during the hailstorm whatsoever. I had myself and George Dreyer went out and walked the entire roof on the elementary school that they just did. They did all of the vertical surfaces. They've done all of the flat work surfaces. There were some areas they had to come in and prep prior, which they did prior to that. There was a primer put down before. They cleaned the surface. They get all of the loose granular stuff off of the top of the roof so it does adhere properly. So it's very good product.
It's
What-
being used.
Yeah,
a
and
lot
I
in
understand
other
that, but you have to understand my skepticism as a female being taking care of her own business. I have to ask these questions because these are the things that I experience on a day-to-day basis, and I know some of you out there do the same thing. So you have to, I'm asking that you honor that because I've had these experiences. So that is all I need to hear is if you guys are kind of backing this stuff up. I want to hear that expertise.
No, that was the whole point. If we're going to pursue something like this, is to fact check it, go out there and really see how it performs. They also did their admin building, no damage there as well. So I think it's a very good product. There's other people that went with me that agree with it. I know sales reps, they tried to.
Okay, my final question is there other prep work that may need to be done in order to use this silicone based on the condition of the existing roof?
And that's what we try to do on our facility assessments. We do a roofing assessment and things like that, see what we need to repair prior to doing the roof work. I'd rather do it right the first time than going back and having to redo something else.
Okay.
Yes, we did. We had MTech go out there and they took a look at it. There was some spots that they did recommend that we would need to fix. And so they did come and say that yes, along with this, there's certain areas that would, and the total cost came out to about 1.2 million. So that's what I'm saying. So with those repairs and with some of the other stuff, what can be overlaid, because not every roof is a candidate for this type of product, but this one is. And so yes, we would use that in the areas where the glass and the ceiling meet, because has that waffle. Yes, there were some areas that need to be addressed. We would take care of that at that time too, and that was included in that cost.
So and this is at Shannon, right?
This is at Shannon Estates, yes ma'am.
Okay, so are there other roofs in our district that we need to maybe consider using this as well?
Yes, and we do have that was, remember our Miller roof that we were trying to do?
Yeah.
That one came in way over budget as well, so we went back, took a look at this one, and we will be bringing that one back to the board, and we're gonna do the same thing. We've got part of it that is eligible for this type of roofing, so we're gonna do that on the parts that we can do this type of method with, and the other will be repaired. So at Miller, it will be a hybrid based on the current roof type. So yes, and now we have it in budget, and we'll be bringing it back to y'all for approval.
And last question, promise. So is using this technology, is that going to be costing us less than
Yes.
the traditional thing?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And this is totally off subject, but the group working at Club Estates on the roof right now, I'm very impressed with those guys. They get there at dark, they leave at dark, they have portable lights. Make sure you stop by and give those guys a kudos and stuff. They're doing a really bang up job there. Really appreciate it. I don't know. That was a good question. I'll get up there and check.
Let's visit about that. Hey, I did Johnson Control Systems. We have a dedicated money every year that we're paying those folks, right?
Yes, that was in your contract, yes.
Right, and it's in the contract, and we still got another 20 years or something.
Not 20, but I believe it ends in 2030.
2030?
Yeah, Roxanne, I think it's 2030. About 5 more years.
It's a long time. But so these schools that we're looking at closing, were any of them serviced under that contract? And so the whole reason I'm asking is we're looking at closing schools and possibly tearing them down, but yet we don't even have the stuff that we upgraded to those schools not even paid for yet. Or
I can look into that because
Yeah.
I don't quite know which ones because that was before my time.
Right.
But I can get that answer for you.
it was right when Dr. Hernandez was coming on and. Yeah, I know that Tom Brown had a lot of stuff done, and you might want to come back and just update the board and give them a quick overview of what happened and why we have that dedicated. I think it's like $8 or $9 million a year.
Okay.
For
I can do that.
and to be sure that we're realizing the savings that we were supposed to realize on that stuff and why we did it and all, just kind of a history.
Okay.
Because that's a lot of money that we're dedicated every year to our fund balance to pay. But I'd really like to see which schools are being under consideration and how much money was actually allocated towards that particular campus.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on savings or money? Also, I just thought of something also, when we were talking about, like we have Title I funds that also help these other schools. So by closing these other schools, that means that other resources and additional allocations could be moved forward, especially like in our state comp ed and some of our other areas that we could be moving away from these campuses to go towards these other campuses for additional help and support as well. So that isn't considered in these numbers, but that's an additional budgetary item. But I was just trying to give the board real numbers that you could actually see that I could commit to. And so that's why I'm saying it's a conservative effort. I know at a minimum we'll save this, but we are anticipating more.
What is our budget on the Title I? You just said we.
Yeah, and so we do an allocation by campus
I
based
know,
on.
but what's the bottom? What's in the bucket?
I need to go back and look at that.
When you say it changes, you're talking about annually?
No,
Yes.
I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I don't. You don't have the book with you, do you? Roxanne. Sorry, my comptroller just fell. No, I'm just kidding. You got your
But I'm talking about what?
Title I, what I have is a big number, but Title I, state comp, and grants is about 45 million.
Okay, I'll go pull it in a minute, huh?
But how does that trickle down to us?
It goes straight to campus
Yes.
for salaries of teachers on the campus, for all of the vendors.
Okay. Dr. Clement is giving me, schooling me right now on Title I. Okay, good. And so I'd like to just ask, when we have another meeting, if you could bring us that and break it down so we can
I think
understand.
she's fixing to give it to you. She's
Well,
calling
and-
on financials.
Okay, great.
Yes. Jaime brought his book.
And I think these are going to lead to more questions that we can probably delve into in another meeting, probably a CNI committee meeting, that would be really valuable. And I think for the purposes of this meeting, we should probably get back on track with our facilities conversation.
But this is why we are meeting today. And I realize that we do have this information primarily coming to us. But there is a momentum building here and an understanding. And this is what we call in our classroom teachable moments, where these things come up. And I would really appreciate the latitude or giving us that opportunity to ask these questions, because I will tell you, my mama always told me, strike while the iron is hot. And right now, my mind is on that. And if you would just allow us some latitude, I'd appreciate it, to the extent that we actually have the information. If we don't,
Yes, no,
okay,
we have,
no
so
problem.
last year we spent a 19 million, and Amanda, she's watching from afar, and she just sent me this year it's 16 million. So, of just Title I funds, just Title I.
I do want to, and this might make it easier, only because to give out a whole big number doesn't give you context as to how it's used. Amanda Cameron did present on this and how all of those funds are used for each grant just a couple of months ago. We can take that PowerPoint and resend it in a board update. It'll give you a lot more information than we can with a whole number right now. We'll do that this week.
Okay, so moving on to our communication plan. So we're having this facility workshop today. And so this afternoon, a letter will be sent out to all our parents, staff, and community with a general overview of this discussion and the items being considered and opportunities for feedback. The weeks of when we come back from Thanksgiving break, so the weeks of December 1st through the 19th, and also when we come back from Christmas break, the week of January 5th through 9th, we would like to have listening sessions with the community and campus staff, and we will have one at each campus just to have these listening sessions, and also a Zoom opportunity for those that cannot make those, to make sure that we are hearing back from our community. And then we will bring this back to the board for possible board action on January 12th, and that will be at the discretion of the board.
This was in our meeting yesterday, and I thought it was a pretty good conversation. Okay, I think the way we're doing it, coming out today right after, this is what discussed and discussed, is good. That's a good thing. I think having listening and getting community feedback from all the people that are involved is a good thing. But the perception is that, well, we've already made up our mind, and we're just going to go check some boxes off, so that when we come back on January the 12th, we're already going to do what we're going to do. And I think somewhere in there we need to take our feedback in and come back maybe one more time and say, okay, we really had the fan community really rose up and said, you know, we're ready to go. We'll help box up everything and let's go. So that looks like a win there. But, you know, then you have another community say, no, we really want to, you know, we like what we got going on here, and we can't give them enough information where they say, okay, we understand why we're doing what we're doing, and whatnot. And I don't know, maybe I'm just one person on the board, but, you know, having a conversation after we may have all this conversation, it may not warrant it. I just don't want us to get backed into a hard January the 12th, let's make a decision. And I understand that there's an art to closing schools and restaffing people, and I get that. But at the same time, this is going to be a monumental decision that this board makes. It's going to be a very huge decision that's going to affect families all across our school district. There won't probably, very few people will not be touched by this, by the decisions that we make when we do this right here. And so I want us to be sure that we do it respectfully with a lot of information and a lot of conversation.
Okay. There's magic happening over here that I can't control. Several things. Number one, certainly, as part of the committee that has worked hand in hand and with the administration and their staff, you know, it's as we undertook this responsibility and really looked at that expansively. All the things that I think that have been brought up have been excellent. Some of these were anticipated, others have been new, and let me assure you, it's all been noted. And we've noted it, and those are things that we're going to go back and look at. But this is the beginning. You know, many of the things that we've talked today, the main thing, as we started the process, and this process started on August the 13th. We have a new procedural aspect of our operations that, you know, give credit to our former president, Mr. Villarreal, in dividing our board to kind of really dig deep in some of these issues. This finance committee has really risen to that challenge and done well to kind of bring forth information. Our general initial goal was to have a workshop that was meaningful, purposeful, and with intent to make sure that we gave you as much information as possible, knowing that certainly it would generate either additional curiosity, but more importantly, key questions that I think we need to answer. Many of the questions are involved in the next steps that we need to undertake. Today was just facilities. Facilities has an impact largely as far as finances that we're trying to address. The facilities it really, when you look at the deficit of $27 million, it may be just a dime in the bucket as far as what we're looking at to address a deficit budget. But that was the overall goal that we undertook as a finance committee, to work with the administration and to share information with the entire board that, you know, this is an issue that it's not going to be able to be done today completely. There's no way that we're going to cover the total deficit in this address of information that we're going to do. Yes, these are major decisions that we're looking at to make. As Mr. Clark mentioned, these are things that are happening across the state, you know, and these are things that are not comfortable, but then things that need to be done. I know Ms. Hawkins mentioned in another meeting that, you know, we may have to make some hard decisions in reference to different things that we've discussed today. But in the end, we want to try to give all of us the best opportunity to collect the data, hear the questions and other issues that we need to address, try to get that as fully as possible to be able to make the best decision for whatever we're doing. Because today's resources, we are going to have to look comprehensively as far as staffing. We need to look at comprehensively as far as enrollment. And, today's figure about being 1,000 plus under what we projected is major. You see that financial impact. And then, of course, in the end, totally, Mrs. Griffith talked about we start the new budget process in February. Well, the budget, the budget is a reflection of our community's values. But yet again, the budget is what we need to work on because that's what we determine how this money is going to be spent to support our community and the district and the things that we're doing for our students. It is a big chunk that we need to look at. But I have hope, and there are some entities that say that hope is just the beginning of disappointment. I rather look at it as the beginning of what it is that we're going to do to work to do the best we can to whittle at our deficit. It can't happen in 1 year. There's no way that can happen. But we're going to look at everything as deeply as we can with the support and the direction and some of the suggestions from the administration, but also with ultimately the things that we need to look at data-wise, personnel-wise, person-wise, emotional-wise, or all withstanding to see what we can do to make our best decisions. But we do see a future of additional informative workshops like this to cover some of these key things that I've just mentioned. But I'm really encouraged with the work that's being done. I'm encouraged with the information that all of us are sharing. But the most important thing about that encouragement, ultimately, that it's going to give us the best choices to make the best decision for the good of our students and certainly the family of CCISD. So I just wanted to thank the administration for working with us, thank the committee for asking many tough and candid questions, but more importantly, also thank all of us here in some of the things that we've shared, discussed, and we'll look at and try to refine and come back and making some of the decisions we need to make a couple of months from now. But I'm anxious and look forward to our communication plan. And yes, Mr. Bell, things may come where we need to re-look at. We anticipate that. We want to have community input, and I think that's a highlight of something that we're doing that maybe has been done in the past, but needs to be done now, and look forward for that input. Thank you very much. I just wanted to share that.
I just want to thank everybody for giving us an opportunity to ask questions and get clarification. In times past, we have had information and stuff, but I think that we have ratcheted it up another level, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for the work put in before this. This feels very, very different from our last conversation about consolidation. I felt like it was not rushed, but it was more reactive than proactive, and I do appreciate everybody, and especially the fiscal committee, taking a look at this and really diving deep into some of the hard questions and issues that we have to face, and really looking at the communication plan, going out to the public and the community and those affected and telling them what our plans are. I will say that it's up to us to say, hey, this is not set in stone. This is step one, right? And so when I hear you say, oh, well, it's already set in stone, absolutely not. It's up to us to say it's not set in stone. And so I would hope that the communication that goes out says, hey, this is step one in our process of a lot of things, right? Budget, academics, athletics. I mean, really everything that encompasses, what enrollment does for each of our each of our campuses. So just really want to say thank you and appreciate the work of everybody that's gotten us here.
I want to echo that and thank our staff for working with us to get us prepared for this meeting. It does feel very intentional, and I know that the Finance Committee worked really hard on all of that. I agree with everything that you said about the communication plan, and I asked the staff to get us the dates for those listening sessions as soon as possible and make sure all the board members know about those dates so we can get them, on our calendar, and challenge all the board members to at least make sure one of us, and maybe you guys, the staff, can help us make sure we have at least one of us at each of those to listen and take in everything that the community is responding with, so that we are aware of the feedback and we can share that and discuss it internally too. So we're really cognizant of that. And to Mr. Arredondo's point, I would respectfully note that, and disagree a little bit, that it's more than a drop in the bucket. Yes, we're not going to tackle a $27 million deficit in one day or 1 year, maybe, but getting to conservatively over a third of that in one piece, which is a very difficult piece, is a big start. And so I think that's a great place to start, even as hard as it's going to be to do it. So that's good place to start. Well, we're not sure. Obviously, we're going to get input, but this, it is a difficult place, a difficult plan to have put out there. So thank you for that. It's a start.
I really appreciate y'all's time, great questions, great conversation. You've seen the material, you have some material. If you read through it and have any questions or even want to meet again, just let us know and we'll set up another time where we can sit with you and go through it.
Dolly, there's still time. Do you want to kick anybody out this time?
Yeah, we are scheduled to go till 12, so I did want to make sure that everybody felt like they had time to say what they wanted to say or share their concerns or questions. Does anybody have anything else?
I want to hear more. I want to hear more about this roofing. That's what I want to hear about.
I would respectfully ask that in the future, when we even are off topic, that we are given an opportunity to kind of beat that horse a little bit, because these things may not come up again, or we may be in a different environment. And every time we're in an environment, we are tied to the agenda. I don't want to get off the agenda or violate any of our rules and regulations, but I really would appreciate some, what word did you use in that? Latitude, thank you, in terms of what we need to know, because sometimes we won't have these opportunities again. And I think it's important in our ability to come to a decision within our own selves as to whether we're going to support or not support, or whether we want to break it up into other pieces and stuff like that. And I don't ask questions just to be on this microphone. I'm asking questions because I have an inquisitive mind about different topics that arise that I'm not clear on. And so I hope that you understand that when I ask those questions, they are very sincere questions, because I believe that it helps. Not only that, but we have people out there watching this thing, and there are, I'm sure, wondering some of the same questions that we get into, or that we actually open a little door to, and then we close it and say, well, that's not on the agenda. But I know that we are doing a service not only to the board members so that we can make good decisions, but we are also feeding information out to our constituents as well, and that's why we are here. Dr. Hernandez always says we are the eyes in the community. We are his eyes. And so that is very true, because they call us up, they send us a message. Why this? Or can you help me with that? And so I just would like to see us have a little more latitude, as long as we are in line with what we are supposed to be, because I believe that anything that has to do with money at this point is part of our consideration as well. So having said that, I'm signing off today. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, hearing nobody else with anything, this concludes the November 20th, 2025 Corpus Christi Independent School Board of Trustees meeting. We're adjourned at 10:47 a.m. Our next regular board meeting will be held on Monday, December 8th, 2025 at 5 p.m.